all the unique characters,
I do let him bang. Yeah, I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm a legend, man. I'm building my legacy.
all the stories and perspectives featured weekly.
I wasn't fully committed to that choke, and I kind of sunk into it, started squeezing tighter, and I kind of heard him gurgle a little bit. I was like, oh.
And all the combat sports you could ask for in the best state in the U.S.
Like I said, Ohio versus the world. It's going to happen for sure. Watch out.
It'll be cool, man. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to show them why the Ohio MMA scene is, in my opinion, one of the best MMA scenes in the country.
This is Forged in OH.
IO.
OH.
IO.
OH.
Ayo!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 95 of Forged in Ohio. My name is Jake Murren, and I'm the host of the podcast. There are a lot of similarities between last week's episode of Forged in Ohio and this week's episode. Last week, I was joined by a 2-0 amateur fighter who had a stunning knockout, and the same can be said about today's guest. This 24-year-old out of Serbia showed incredible power in his last win at Cage Thunder 28 fight night in the flats. He knocked out his opponent 41 seconds into the very first round. He fights out of Rising Dragon MMA in Northeast Ohio. It's the one and only Sinisa Jovic. And thanks for coming on the show, Sinisa, and welcome to Forged in Ohio.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming on the show. And we got to start with that win at Cage Thunder 28. It was the shortest fight of the night, perhaps the most impressive performance of the night. You knocked out your opponent, Isaiah Simmons, 41 seconds into the fight. What was it like just getting such an emphatic knockout on a really big stage like that?
Man, at first it was surprising when I hit him with that hook. You know, whenever I've had a bunch of kickboxing fights before, but whenever I get like a knockdown or a knockout, I never look for it. It just happens. And like you could tell, like after I hit him for a split second, I looked and I'm like, okay, is he going to stop it or not? And I didn't feel him. Like this is all running through my mind for like a second. I didn't feel the ref touch me. So I'm like, dude, let me just add those finishing touches. And then he pushed me and he pushed me so fucking hard. That's probably the hardest hit I took all night.
Was there some, I know you said you kind of just saw it there in the moment, but was there something in preparation that maybe hinted towards that left hook being available to you, or was it really just in the moment when you saw it?
I've been working on that. I've been working on that hook for a long time. And my coach, Taiwan, he put some finishing touches on it with the elbow positioning. Because most people, when they throw their hooks, they have a lower elbow, but then you don't have that shoulder drive with that lower elbow. So if you raise that elbow up, you really have that shoulder pop. And it's not just your whole body and your whole hips. It's that added touch to it. And just I forget, what was the question again?
Yeah,
I was too busy on the technique.
No, I appreciate the technique talk. It was just the left hook. Was it more so in the moment, or was it more calculated and planned on what you maybe saw?
No, I was actually, believe it or not, you could ask like, you know, Tobias and Juan and these guys. I told them a week before, I told them I'm going to knock them out with a right cross left hook. And I'm like, I'm gonna finish him up against the cage. And I visualize that. I do a lot of visualization. When I was little, when I was younger, I used to watch Conor McGregor a lot. And he would always talk about the law of attraction and visualization and stuff. And I probably visualized that shot like I'd say a good 300 times the week of the fight. Like whenever I had like my own peace time, like in the shower, driving home from training, before bed, I would just visualize. And I'm not kidding you. I visualized that left hook. I visualized a right cross hurting him and then a left hook finishing him. Like it wasn't in succession. And then I visualized me finishing him up against the cage. And it happened exactly like I saw it. And like the way I visualized it so many times that it just looked like a future, or it looked like a memory. It looked like a clear memory that already happened. And I've been doing that throughout my career with kickboxing, with boxing, with wrestling, with jiu-jitsu. So always try to do that, and it was definitely planned.
Has it come to fruition before? Like I know you saw it and it exactly happened how you saw it in this fight, but
yeah,
with all your kickboxing experience in your first MMA fight, has that happened before where what you visualize actually happens?
Yeah, I remember doing a combat sambo tournament, and I visualized a head kick, and I just kept visualizing, and bam, lead head kick right off and dropped the dude.
So on fight night at Cage Thunder 28, and you have that visualization of this left hook knocking him out up against the cage, how much is that running through your head on fight day, and maybe even in the cage itself, where you want to finish the fight that way, but obviously you don't want to get that thought in the way of other things you might be doing?
So like I do a lot of preparation leading up to the fight, like mentally, spiritually, physically, but as soon as I get in the cage, it's I don't hear the crowd, I don't see the crowd, I don't see the ref. I don't have any thoughts. I'm just completely in the moment, just completely present, completely in the moment, and completely locked in. Like the only voice that I hear is my coach's voice.
Yeah. How confident were you going into the fight that you would win via knockout? Maybe not in 41 seconds like you did, but that you would walk out of the cage 2-0 with 2 finishes on the MMA record.
I knew it. It was a state of conviction. I knew it. And I know that these next fights too, that they're gonna be victories. Either first round, second round. The amount of time I train and the amount of time I've been training, I train 3 times a day. So I train 3 times a day, 5 to 6 hours a day. That's all I do. I drill, I spar, I roll, I do my stuff on my own. I do my stuff with my partners. I've been training since I was 7 years old. I grew up in Serbia. I grew up in the village. I know how they train over there. Everybody keeps talking about, oh, Dagestan, Chechnya, this and that. I grew up in the mountains. I grew up in the village. So it's nothing special, honestly. They train with their cousins. So, and I mean, I didn't really start taking my training seriously until I was like 15. So it's just too much time in between for anybody to catch up to me. Amateur, pro, doesn't matter. I'm not even trying to like try and sound too cocky, but it doesn't matter. The amount I train, what I do, like how much I've been preparing for, it I'm not worried.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems like your level's ahead, and I hate using this word in MMA, but it almost looks easy for you so far through 2 amateur fights. Is that the case where you just are that much more experienced, that much more skilled, to where these 2 amateur fights so far have been relatively easy?
I mean, I'll let you say it. I don't want to, I don't want to be the. Let me stay humble. But we'll see, man. I don't underestimate anybody. Every fight I know is going to be dangerous, and the opponent's going to be tough. But at the same time, I'm going to be more dangerous, and I'm just going to be tougher. And that's something that I know. So, and it doesn't matter to me what the record is, who it is. I don't care.
Immediately following your fight, Cage Thunder 28 went into what became about an hour and a half weather delay. Were you happy to get your fight out of the way before that happened?
Dude, I was. When I saw that, I'm like, dude, thank God that I had my fight before this, because this would have been horrible, man. And like the cage would have probably been slippery and this and that. And I'm like, thank God that I got mine out the way and now I can drink a beer.
So what did the rest of the night look for you? Did you hang out at the venue to see the rest of the fights, or were you already out of there while the rest of us were sitting through thunderstorms and, another 12 fights?
No, I was there. I had a lot of people come by, so I wanted to like celebrate with them at the venue. And I wanted to catch a couple of other fights and just celebrate with my team, my coaches, my family, everybody that came out. And then everybody wanted me to go out and, oh, let's do an after party and this and that. And I'm just like, man, it's just an amateur win. It's just an amateur fight. It's just an amateur MMA fight win. Like, what am I going to celebrate? I'm like, I'm going to just go home, eat some pizza, and then tomorrow hit the gym again. So,
Yeah, is that how long the celebrations and the excitement off the win lasted? Just that night, and then that Sunday you're
yeah.
right back to it?
Yeah, the next day I ran like 4 or 5 miles. So, and just I messed up my hand a little bit. That first shot that I threw, it's not swollen as it was, but I couldn't do anything with my right hand. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just go for a run and do as much as I can. I just hit the bag with my left hand for like 30 or 40 minutes and ran 5 miles. So,
I understand that your walkout had a pretty deep meaning. Can you describe the walkout, the song you chose, and what that all meant to you?
yeah, so the walkout was there was a war in the 1990s in Serbia in 1999 with Albania, and Albania was supported by NATO and like the NATO countries. And there was 100 like Serbian soldiers who were all like 18, 19, and they got attacked by like 5 to 6,000 troops from the enemy side in the mountains. And like they held them off for like I think 2 weeks, just them 100. And then they started getting bombed in like a bunch of them died in that day, and that song was dedicated to them. So I just picked that song and then dedicated that win towards them, because 18, 19, that young to be, fighting experienced people. It's just those type of guys are real fighters. I just walk in a cage and do it because I love it. But those type of people, regardless of the nationality or ethnicity, those type of people, soldiers, are the real fighters and the real warriors. So I just wanted to dedicate that to them. And that, like, when that song came on, man, it's just like some type of warrior spirit just entered my body, and I was like, man, no matter who it is in this cage, it's my time.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because you often hear very loud and energetic music to help amp fighters up during their walkouts. But when you dedicate yours to something so meaningful to you, does it have that same effect?
I don't need to get amped up. I just like to get calm and in the zone. I think trying to amp yourself up is a defense mechanism against your own insecurity, because if you need to amp yourself up, I feel like Fedor Emelianenko said, that's just you needing to convince yourself that you are something that you're not. So I already believe in myself. I believe in God. I believe in what I can do, my team, my preparation. I don't need to hype myself up and jump around and this and that, because I already know what I'm going to do.
I believe you took a trip back to Serbia after the win at Cage Thunder 28. How great was it to visit home after a big win like that?
So I didn't go to Serbia. I went to the beach. I went to the Dominican Republic.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but it could have been, yeah. But there's beaches over there close by home, so I get that it's easy to mix them up. But no, I went on vacation with my family, and that was like the first time like 8 years that I went on vacation again. So it was a nice week, man. A win on the biggest stage in Cleveland for MMA.
Mhm.
Nice vacation afterwards, and then a black belt that I got from my coaches afterwards. So 3 weeks of good, steady successes and good times. So
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. You received your black belt in MMA at Rising Dragon. How special was that for you?
that was special, man. That almost brought a tear to my eye. I'm not really an emotional guy, but I almost started crying there. I had to hug Taiwan and Alonzo and Tobias and all my training partners. And it was special. It was special because I never really focused on like a ranking system. And even when I trained in Serbia and this and that, we never really had ranking systems. It was more just, get to the gym, work, get your ass whooped, come back, and then just keep going. There's nobody really focused on belts. So that was special. That was nice. I appreciate them a lot.
Talking with Sinisa Jovic on Forged in Ohio. I want to dig into your story because I know you have a lot more experience than just 2 amateur MMA fights. When were you first exposed to combat sports?
So I was first exposed at 7 years old with like karate and combat sambo and judo, but I didn't take it serious till I was like 15. I didn't take it serious till I was like 15. And my mom actually is the one that like pushed it onto me, because she just wanted me to keep staying active, especially when we came to the States. So I started training over there when I was 7 in Serbia. And then when I came to the States, I was still training a little bit, but I got into like almost like gaming and was playing a bunch of video games for a year when I was about 12. And then she didn't like that. She wanted me to like keep staying active. So she found a school here in Ohio and signed me up. And from there, I just, got back on it when I was little. And then when I was 15, I'm like, man, I was like, I like this. I'm like, you know what? I want to go to the UFC. I'm like, that's my goal. Like, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to college. I want to get to the UFC, and I want to win a world title in the UFC. So when I was 15, I set that goal. I got my boxing experience, my kickboxing experience, sambo, karate, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. So I was just like, you know what? At 15, I was like, let me get good at every martial art individually. And then when I can hold my own against the top guys in their own sport, I'll put it all together for MMA. So that was my goal always, is to get well versed in each discipline first and then put it all together, which is, I think, the correct way to do. And it takes a long time. Instead of trying to rush it and learn MMA at once, you're like a jack of all trades. You're good at everything, but you're not great at anything, you know? So I think that's the way, almost like the GSP method, is to get good at your boxing, by itself, get good at your wrestling by itself, everything else, and then put it together.
How old were you when you moved to the States, and what encouraged the family to move to Ohio?
So I was actually the only one born in the States out of my family because they escaped the war as refugees, and I came here and or they came here in 97 and I was born in 2000. And then we went back there and lived there for a couple of years, and then we came back to Ohio. We just kept moving back and forth between Serbia and Ohio. So I probably spent like a good 10 or 12 years in Serbia and then a good 12 years here.
What are the differences between training in Serbia and training here in the States?
I'd say I'd say in Serbia it's probably a lot more balanced, and they focus it's a little bit more systematic. You know, it's not like when I know when I wrestled here, it was more like just hard nose, go, 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 just go hard, go hard, go hard, go hard. But over there it was more like the wrestling was you probably drill for like 2.5 hours. If class is like 3 hours, you do like 2.5 hours of drilling and focusing on the technique and really just feeling that understanding and getting that understanding like in your muscle memory. And then you go live for like 30 minutes, and then afterwards if you want to stay you can still keep going live or keep drilling. But as for here, like when I wrestled here in school, it was more just go, 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 go. You know, you're going live. You drill for like 30 minutes and you're going live for like an hour and a half, which is good. Don't get me wrong. You need both of that. But that you know what they say even here, drillers make killers, man. You gotta drill. Drilling is not hard on your body. It's not stressful on your body. You can drill for 6, 7 hours and not get injured. As to going, hard live rounds, you going hard every day, you could probably only do an hour, hour and a half, and that's that.
I know you said at 15 years old is when you started to take this more seriously. Was there a day or was there something happened to where you felt that connection and something clicked and you really embraced this combat sports journey?
I feel like there was, but I really can't remember. I remember myself looking in the mirror when I was 15, and I was like asking myself like, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm just like, man, I want to go to the UFC. I was like, I want to walk around that stage. I want those 30, 40,000 people, watching me all yelling and this and that. And just, and then after that, I set that goal and I just started taking it seriously. I started competing. I started training rigorously and just, trying to do everything and going into everything, like not being open-minded to everything and every martial art, not just sticking to the generic, oh, boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. I'm like, the more you know, the better it is. And if I know what all these other guys know, like the wrestling, boxing, and uh, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and I can bring some stuff in and elements from like taekwondo and karate and all this other stuff, sambo, then that knowledge gap is there. If they're dealing with something they've never seen in the gym, that's what's gonna, give me that advantage over them.
I'm no kickboxing expert, but I know you're a champion in the sport and are a Waco silver medalist. Do you even know how many times you've competed in kickboxing?
No, no. If I had to pick, no. Like my last fight was in Florida, and I fought Alexander Dimitrenko, and Alexander Dimitrenko, he had 450 fights kickboxing, and he fought Alex Pereira, and he took Alex Pereira, I think, to a split decision in kickboxing. And I went in there 2 weeks before the fight. I fractured my ankle in training, and I'm like, I'm not pulling out. I don't pull out of fights. I don't. I'll fight with. I fought with broken hands before. Like that's why I was gonna fight October 19th, but my hand still wasn't good. So out of respect for the matchmakers, I'm like, you know what? I'm not. I still got some injuries I got to handle with because I know if they got me a fight, I'm fighting. I'll fight with a broken hand. I don't care. So, but I fractured my ankle 2 weeks before the fight, and I'm like, dude, fuck, man. I'm like, this is a big, big fight, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Let me just ice it, put some Serbian moonshine on it to help it out, and then I go in there, and first round I'm beating him, dude. Like I'm beating him. I was beating him worse than Alex Pereira was. Like you can watch I'll send you the highlights of my fight versus the Pereira one. They fought like 7 or 8 years ago, I think. And round one, I'm doing great. I'm winning. And at the end of the round, I throw a leg kick and he doesn't even check it. just out of habit. I throw a leg kick with my right foot, and my ankle just shatters. And I'm like, oh shit, dude, what am I gonna do now? Like he didn't even check it, and it's already gone. And I didn't tell my coach. It was my fault. I was stupid. I didn't tell my coaches or Tobias. They were cornering me. I didn't tell them in the middle of the round or in the middle or after round one. I didn't tell them that my ankle's hurting. And they're like, "Hey man, more leg kicks, more leg kicks." I'm like, dude. I'm like, what am I gonna? And then Tobias is like, you know what? Fake the leg kick and go for a Superman punch. And I'm like, okay, all right, that works. I'll do that. That fits my style right now better. And I see that he came straight from Russia on a visa, which I don't even know because there's a war going on over there. I don't know how he did it, but he came straight from Russia and he got nobody in his corner. He just came by himself. And honestly, when you have 450 fights, and as a pro, he's ranked number 10, I think, and he's like 21-8 as a pro, but amateur, he's got like 450 fights. And he's standing there, not even sitting down on a stool, and he's just like mean mugging me. And we got 30 seconds left of the rest in between. And I'm like, nah, fuck this shit. I tell Taiwan and Tobias, I'm like, get out the ring, get out the ring. And I get up. Come on, bitch, come on. Like, you want to fight? I was like, I know, I'm not afraid. I know where you grew up. I grew up in the same place. Like, let's go, you know? And I got hyped and I got too hyped for my own good. And in the beginning of the round, bam, I fake the leg kick. I throw a Superman punch. I catch him. In the first round, I wobbled him too, and then I throw a leg kick again. Man, I'm like ankle. This time he checks it. Ankle's just done. Can't step on it. Can't pivot on it. Can't put weight on it. And then he just senses it. 500 fights almost. Of course he's gonna sense it. And somehow I survived the second round with just 1 foot. And then the second round again, man, I do because Waco scores leg kicks a lot. That's what they're like, their scoring systems. They use a European scoring system. They don't use a 10-9, which they should, but they like score the strike. So it's like a K1 full like glory, but they just don't use 10-9. They score the strikes that you land, and you have to land them clean. And leg kicks, they score like crazy. So the third round, I'm like, man, my leg's already done. Let me try it. And then I throw a hook combo. I go hook, like 5 or 6 hooks. And then I throw everything into a leg kick. And this fucking Russian guy sees it, dude. He checks it. And I threw it like a baseball bat. And then my ankle just exploded. And the referee stopped it from the ankle break, which was unfortunate, man, because that first round, man, if I was healthy, I would have beat that guy.
In hindsight, do you wish that you maybe did not fight that night with the ankle injury, or are you happy that it happened?
I'm happy that it happened. It was the experience fighting. That was probably, I mean, I fought other well-versed opponents, good opponents, but fighting somebody that's got 450 amateur fights and that's 21-8 as a pro, ranked number 10 as a pro, that's good experience. You can't even get that experience as a pro sometimes, let alone, in like a high-level amateur setting. So I'm happy I did it, but I want a rematch, dude. I want to fight that dude again and healthy this time.
Have you ever been close to pulling out of a fight? I know you've said you've fought with a ton of injuries in the past, but man, it takes a different type of mindset to be able to go into that cage with those injuries that you just talked about.
No, I'm never gonna pull out a fight. No, if I take a fight, if I'm injured, I'm gonna fight. Maybe that's not smart. Maybe in the future I will, like if it's a big opportunity, and then I can, like if it's a title fight or something, and then I can reschedule it. Yeah, but this was different. This tournament's every year, once a year, and it's like the Olympics of kickboxing. It's the most prestigious tournament in the United States that you can do. And I was like, man, this is a big shot. And I saw that he was fighting there, and I'm like, man, I want to fight him because he fought the 205-pound UFC champ. I'm like, let me see what these guys are about. But it did boost my confidence a lot, like fighting somebody at that level. And it was a great experience. But no, I'm ready. Until like it starts bothering me. Like the first round, it didn't bother me, but when it affects me physically to fight, that's when it's an issue. And then like also mentally, like you're not focused on fighting anymore. Like after that round one, all I was focused on was, okay, what if my ankle breaks? What if it breaks? What if it breaks? And then I got to be out for like 9 or 10 months, but thank God it didn't break. But then again, I'm ready for anything in there. Like I know that anything can happen. I'm ready. I'm ready for anything in there. I'm ready to die in there, honestly. I don't this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do since I was 15. I know anything can happen in there, but I'm ready.
What does your coach and teammates at Rising Dragon think of this mindset of you going in there, whatever injuries you have, you're going to compete anyway?
They think I'm fucking crazy, dude. Like my boy Juan, I remember I went over to like a barbecue at his house to watch the UFC. He's like, "Hey, this is my fucking crazy Serbian Russian friend. He's nuts." Like they think that I got a couple of screws loose with that mindset. But maybe I do, honestly, to do this and to feel like it's normal, because this is the only thing that feels normal to me. This is the only time, like when I'm fighting or when I'm in camp, that's the only time like I'm at peace. Like when I don't have a fight coming up, I'm still training, but if I'm injured, I feel like lost and confused and like I'm bored, like I'm like, shit, what do I do now? Like there's nothing else for me to do. Like, yeah, I'll work and this and that, but I'm like just bored, just I get the jitters. Like that's why I gotta train. Even when I don't have a fight, I'm always training. Like I train year round. I don't take a break.
You've mentioned Alex Pereira a few times, obviously a UFC champion, and what he's done and burst onto the scene in MMA has been absolutely incredible to watch over the last few years. Coming from that kickboxing experience himself and you as well, do you kind of look at his game and see what he's done and maybe compare it to what you could do in the future?
Sometimes that thought pops in my head, but I don't want to be like anybody else but me. I'm not going to be the next Alex Pereira or next this. I'm going to be the first Sinisa Jovic. So, and it does give me like some confidence, but honestly, I feel like I got a better ground game in wrestling than Alex Pereira. Because I've been doing that since I was little as well, wrestling, and it's just I mentioned the Dagestan and Chechnya. I've wrestled in the village before and done all that. So for MMA at least, I think my wrestling is because wrestling for MMA is a lot different than wrestling for wrestling.
Yeah, man. So we know you're a problem when it comes to kickboxing to MMA, but what about when it comes to those other components of mixed martial arts, the wrestling, the grappling, jiu-jitsu, sambo, karate like you were talking about? Just how well-rounded are you?
Hopefully we get to see it. Hopefully we get to see it. Maybe the next fight I take somebody to 12th and just darce choke them. I've been working on my darce chokes and my triangle chokes because I'm lanky. I got long arms and long legs. So I've been really working on submissions that work for me, like those darce chokes and anaconda chokes, arm triangle chokes, and then for with the legs, triangle chokes, honestly. So hopefully we see that. And in the first fight, you saw it a little bit. I tried to get taken down by Nate, and he got in deep. So what I did is I kept circling. So since I couldn't sprawl at first, I kept circling to not let him get the angle. And then I cross faced him. And then when I could get square enough to him and get far away enough, I sprawled him out and then just blocked the tricep and took his back. So I'm very, very knowledgeable in the wrestling and the grappling too.
Something that you said earlier that stuck out to me was when you were talking about how, given all of your experience, you have a lot of things that you can show other fighters that they've never really seen before. How many tools do you have in your toolbox per se? Do you have that other fighters just have never seen before, given your experience, your Serbian roots, all that?
I could do, especially, I mean, amateurs, we can't do the head kicks in Ohio, but I could do a bunch of different stuff. Standing, grappling, standing in the clinch, on the ground, off my back, on top. So if we could do head kicks, man, I'd pull out an axe kick. I'd pull out an axe kick. I love doing. I'll give it away because it doesn't matter. They can know, and I'll still do it to them. So I like doing leg kicks, and then I'll bring my axe kick like I'm doing a leg kick, and then I'll come back right on top on the collarbone or right on the nose. So, and a lot of these MMA guys, I don't want to I'm too arrogant or cocky, but a lot of these MMA guys, man, their striking sucks. So doing that, like doing the kickboxing scene, and then like seeing some of the MMA guys fight and seeing their striking, I'm just like, oh, golly goodness, man. So that axe kick, I feel like it would land. We'll see. We'll probably take that on the pros, but all this other stuff will, maybe maybe pull out a choke or something like that. I don't want to just do knockouts. I gotta do some submissions too.
Yeah, of course, mix it up, man. So, is it hard to almost be held back like that in amateur fights in Ohio when you know you have these different kicks and attacks to the head that you can't use because of the regulations?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes. I mean, I've only had 2 MMA fights for now, but yeah, sometimes you almost forget because like the first fight, I almost did an elbow, like because his guard, he did a really good job of keeping his guard tight, and at first I really got excited and I was throwing more like volume punches with not a lot of heat on them, because my mindset was okay, it's the amateurs. The ref will usually stop it from a high amount of punches, not a high percentage shots or high power shots, but less volume. So I'm like, okay, let me just throw as much as I can, but not really put too much of that power into him because he'll stop it anyway. And then I saw after a minute, I'm like, damn, he's not stopping it. I'm like, okay, let me take away a hand and just start, putting heat into him. And after that, the ref stopped it. But even the second fight, when I had that Sabaki clinch, when I had that overhook with the frame, man, I almost like for a split second, I almost grabbed his head and pulled it down into a knee, and I was like, "Oh, thank God I didn't, dude," because it was because you forget like when you're in the moment there, but then for a split second, you're like, hold up, I can't do it to the knee." So it was I think the fourth knee. That's when you could see like I take my time and then I hit him to the body because I was thinking about kneeing him in the head, and then I had to stop myself like, hold up, it's amateur MMA, I can't knee to the head. Let me just go to the body.
With where you're at right now, do you think you're one of the most dangerous amateur welterweights in the state of Ohio?
Yeah, I think I'm the most dangerous. People just don't know it yet, but they will. They'll know soon.
Yeah, I love that answer. Once again, this is Sinisa Jovic on Forged in Ohio. We know that you have a ton of experience in kickboxing with now 2 MMA fights under your belt. What's next for you, man, following Cage Thunder 28?
Next is gonna be another MMA fight. I'm probably done with kickboxing. I might do it as like a side quest, but the main thing is MMA now. I don't wanna Whenever I had kickboxing fights coming up, I would always take time off my grappling to just do kickboxing because just mentally going into a kickboxing fight, if you know your opponent's training kickboxing 6 days a week, and then you're doing 3 days of grappling and 3 days of kickboxing, you're kind of like, it kind of messes with you a little bit because he's doing more kickboxing than you. So anytime I had a kickboxing fight, I would take time off my grappling and just do striking. And I don't like that because I really enjoy grappling. Like I have fun grappling. Like I can't wait to most of my training now is, especially now since I'm injured in my hand, most of my training now has been just grappling. Even with my grappling dummy, I was literally down here yesterday for like 3 hours by myself, just working on Darce chokes and triangle chokes, And he's nice too, man. He doesn't care about getting his reps in. So I don't. He's better than a drill partner. I could just fucking do 100 reps on him all day.
There you go, man. You talk about how kickboxing is like a side quest for you now with your focus on MMA. Is there anything that you want to accomplish in kickboxing, or is it really just that, a side quest as you turn your attention to mixed martial arts?
It's just a side quest. Like I don't know. Somebody put this here. This world championship in kickboxing. I don't know who put it there, but so I mean I don't know. Somebody just placed it there. It's usually back there. But nah, I've accomplished enough in kickboxing. Maybe win a gold in Waco and then go to the world championships. But other than that, no, I don't really want to take kickboxing anywhere. I mean, I could, but I don't really have a goal to like go to Glory or ONE FC or this and that. And the dude that I fought, Alexander, he fought in those promotions, so I could if I wanted to, but MMA has always been my main goal. And even when I've always been training grappling, and I've competed in grappling tournaments as well, and I've won grappling tournaments as well. But MMA was always my main focus.
Yeah, did that help you like scratch that itch of maybe potentially wanting to compete in those promotions, getting that fight against Alexander and testing yourself against him who has competed in those promotions?
We'll see. Honestly, I don't know if I do want to compete in those promotions. Glory doesn't do MMA, but ONE FC they do MMA. I would be I would be down to do, always UFC was always the main goal, but before that, I would definitely take a fight in ONE FC or PFL or Bellator, God willing in the future when I'm pro. But UFC's always been the main goal. That's like the NBA of NFL of MMA. That's the main organization. That's where you want to be. That's the premier.
Yeah, for sure. I know you said that you have a hand injury going on right now, and October 16th was too soon, but when do we see you in the cage next?
Hopefully, realistically, with the injury and like I gotta get something else checked out too. Probably November or December. Mid November, early December, something like that.
Sounds good, man. I've seen that you write a lot about purpose on social media. What do you think your purpose is when it comes to mixed martial arts?
I think my God-given purpose is to celebrate him through fighting. I think my purpose is getting to the UFC, winning a world title in the UFC, and using that platform to glorify him and to help people and to help my kids in the village and help other mistreated kids and kids everywhere around the world that don't have opportunities like we do. And I'd like to, hopefully God willing, when I succeed, I'd like to do some nonprofit organizations and like open up some schools, some martial arts schools for kids that don't have that opportunity to train.
Yeah, I love that, man. You spark me as the type of person who never wavers from what they're focused on. Is that accurate with how dialed in you are with what you know your future holds?
Yeah, I'm super dialed in. Like I agree with what you said right there. Like everybody I saw that a bunch of fighters, pros, amateurs, after Cage Thunder, I saw a bunch of them, go, out and party and, get bottle service and this and that. I woke up the next day at 6 a.m. I was running 5 miles. So it's what am I going to celebrate an amateur win for? Even if I'm a pro, what am I going to celebrate? I'm not celebrating until it's done. I'm not celebrating until it's done. Celebration just wanders your focus. When I'll celebrate? When I get a UFC title. That's when I'll celebrate.
Again, I love these responses here, Sinisa. How active are you trying to be as you pursue your purpose and those goals in mixed martial arts?
As long as I'm healthy, I want to be as active as possible. I want to probably take a fight every 2 months, with and it's honestly as long as I'm healthy because I've fought like when I did Waco, I fought 3 times in a day. So even MMA, if the athletic commission allows it, we can do a tournament, welterweight tournament. I'll do 3 MMA fights in a day or two. I'm down with that as long as everybody else is down with that.
Last one for you. Sinisa Jovic, where are you at this time next year in 2025, ending 2025? Where are you at?
This time next year, September, probably getting my pro debut or 1-0, 2-0 as a pro.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff, and the activity will certainly be there if that's the case. Before we wrap up, anything you want to shout out here at the back end of the show, I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, well, first, I always give praise to God. I always thank him for everything. I thank you for having me on the show. And then I thank my team, my family, and my team. Taiwan, Alonzo, Tobias, Juan Goins, Zach, Craig, everybody else that comes up. It's I couldn't do it without my family and them. So all my successes are their successes as well. We're a smaller group, but we're tight knit. We're tight knit. The relationship's there, the trust is there, the drilling's there, everything's there. And in a few years, everybody's gonna know Rising Dragon, the whole world. You can trust on that.
Well, thanks again, Sinisa, for coming on the show. It was an honor to have you on the podcast, especially with all your experience and the result of your last fight. I know you have those Serbian roots, but it's a staple of Forged in Ohio for me to do the OHIO chant to wrap up these episodes with my guests. I'm assuming you've heard of it, but if you could just do the IO for me here. OH.
I got you. IO, baby.
Thank you, Sinisa. I appreciate the time. Congrats on what's seemingly been a couple of great months for you, and I hope that success continues for you and the team.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Hopefully it will. God willing. Thank you. Thank you for having on me. And hey, even though Serbian roots, I'm still a Cleveland native, man. I'm a Cleveland native. You know, when I succeed, I'm giving credit to Cleveland. I'm coming back with that belt to Cleveland.
There we go, man. That's what we love to hear here on Forged in Ohio. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was Sinisa Jovic, the 2-0 amateur mixed martial artist. That's back-to-back 2-0 amateur fighters to join Forged in Ohio. I said last week that it's not too common for guys with only 2 fights to come on the show, but with what Brody and now Sinisa have done through 2 fights, most importantly with what they did in each of their last fights with electric knockouts, it's a no-brainer for me to have these types of guys on. The danger factor is off the charts for Sinisa Jovic, and he'll be a problem for whatever welterweight stands across from him next. If you want more Forged in Ohio content in your life, then check out the show on Instagram and Facebook for show clips and announcements. Just search @Forged in Ohio on those 2 platforms. To support the show even further, you can download these episodes while you're listening to them on your podcast feed, or subscribe to the YouTube channel if you prefer watching the show. As always, I appreciate you all for watching or tuning in. I've been your host, Jake Murren, and this was Forged in Ohio.